Madam Speaker, I rise today to address the House as we have just marked the third anniversary of the unprovoked Russian invasion of Ukraine. Yesterday, February 24, 2022, the date on which the largest land grab in Europe since World War II joins an ignominious list of others as a day of infamy. But this month, it's also notorious for something else. In this month and in this year, the Pax Americana, the rules-based international order which established in the aftermath of World War II, an order that has delivered peace and prosperity to the United States, has been brought to a dishonorable end. In this month, Trump ordered the U.S. representative to the UN to vote with autocrats and against democracy. Pete Hegseth, the Fox Weekend television host, improbably elevated into an American Secretary of Defense, announced that NATO membership for Ukraine was off the table. Going further, he suggested that Ukraine's return to its 2014 borders was no longer in the cards. Hegseth thereby deprived Ukraine and the West of two of their most valuable bargaining chips in determining the shape of any peace agreement that is to come. In the same month, Donald Trump, the President of the United States, standing facts on their head, called Volodymyr Zelensky, the leader of Ukrainian democracy, quote, an unelected dictator, and incredibly spewing another blatant falsehood, blamed Ukraine for starting the war. In this month, in perhaps the most shameful statement from an American president in the history of our republic, Trump explained that because Russia had lost so many soldiers, it was entitled to keep some or all of its territory that it had seized in its unprovoked war of aggression. It's bad enough that these are lies and betrayals of America's great traditions. It's bad enough that these statements legitimize violations of the fundamental principle of Pax Americana and the UN Charter, namely the rules of the jungle no longer apply to international relations, that might does not make right, and that powerful nations cannot employ force to redraw international borders at will. It's bad enough that the Trump administration is failing to offer a strong bipartisan bargaining position for Ukraine from which it can negotiate a just peace. It's bad enough that its statements have sent an unmistakable message to the world, in particular communist China, that aggression pays. But things are even worse than all of that. Under the tutelage of Donald Trump, we are witnessing a fundamental transformation of American foreign policy from a force for good in the world to a force for evil. Trump is aligning American foreign policy with that of the Kremlin. As analyst Phillips O'Brien has put it, the USA is now run by gangsters who want to ally with other gangsters and are using threats of destruction and violence to get their way. In the first term, if there were guardrails because there were adults in the room, this time around, there are no such adults in the room. Trump has surrounded himself with sycophants and yes men, third-rate fanatics, and clowns from the MAGA world. The guardrails are gone. Trump is free to follow his peculiar whims and unhinged instincts. Indeed, he is free to act as would be a mad king. The results are plain to see. The results are visible in Trump's repeated attacks on Denmark for refusing to sell Greenland to the United States, another dangerous fantasy which is roiling relations with NATO, a NATO ally, and has been exceptionally loyal friend in times of need. They are visible in the trade war that Trump is promising to unleash on Mexico, on Canada, on Europe, and the entire world, with untold consequences for prosperity everywhere, including here at home. And they are most visible in the collapse of our friendship with Ukraine, our abandonment of a fledgling democracy that has been valiantly fighting for its very existence. Instead of standing by Ukraine, the Trump administration is insisting that it yield its natural resource wealth to the United States in exchange for previous American support without any guarantee of territorial integrity. This is not the behavior of a great democratic power, the leader of the free world. It's the behavior of a mafia state engaged in coercion and blackmail. It is impossible not to be ashamed by what is being done in the name of America. Putin would like nothing more than to cause internal chaos in Ukraine and rid Kyiv of Zelensky. Trump is following suit. Zelensky is absolutely right when he stated that Trump is living inside a disinformation bubble. At root, Trump's policies betray a fundamental misunderstanding of the American idea. The fact that we are a free and self-governing people, a democracy that has always been a beacon of liberty. The president and his billionaire shadow co-president have embraced a dystopian ideology based on falsehoods. The effect of their disinformation is rapidly bringing us to a crisis point where their falsehoods will crash into the reality of great power competition. If America abandons Ukraine and embraces the Kremlin, the consequences for the United States and for the world will prove ruinous.